The final vessel of the Deathworld Alliance drifted unsteadily through the desolate sea of stars, its defense systems on the verge of collapse. No one could have imagined that an accidental signal from Earth would become their last ray of hope. When humanity decided to set aside its internal conflicts to fight alongside the Alliance, the fate of 3 universes began to change. Lieutenant Terran Vorex stared out at the gray wasteland of Stavora from the observation deck of the military academy. Swirling dust storms obscured the horizon, a fitting backdrop to the grim news that had just arrived. Prelian Prime had fallen. Another Deathworld gone. Another 15 billion lives extinguished like candles in a hurricane. Lieutenant Vorex. The voice of High Commander Zell cut through his thoughts. "The Council requests your presence immediately." Terran turned, his silver eyes narrowing slightly. As a Taurian, his rigid posture and disciplined demeanor were as much a part of him as the pale blue markings that traced across his temples. "Has there been another attack?" "Worse," Zell replied. "We need new solutions. The Council believes you might have them." The corridors of the Academy had once bustled with cadets from all 3 Alliance species. Now, they echoed emptily, a monument to a dying coalition. Terran's footsteps resonated against the metal floors as he made his way to the Council chamber, where the fate of 100 billion lives would be decided. When he entered, Hessa was already there. The Sistaran strategist stood near the central holotable, her slender frame and iridescent skin making her appear almost ghost-like under the harsh lighting. Next to her, Dr. Maya Tita's avian features were set in grim concentration, her Avan heritage evident in the delicate feathered ridges that framed her face. "Lieutenant Vorex," the Council Elder began without preamble. "The Ascendancy has broken through our primary defense line. Prelian Prime has fallen." "I've heard," Terran replied, his voice steady despite the churning in his stomach. Prelian Prime had been their key resource planet, crucial for sustaining what remained of the Deathworld Alliance. "What you haven't heard," the Elder continued, "is that we've received a signal. From Earth." The holotable flickered to life, showing the image of a human male, dark-skinned, with keen eyes, and an air of quiet authority. "Ambassador Calix Donovan," the Elder explained. "He has broadcast this throughout our remaining territories." The recording began to play, and Ambassador Donovan's voice filled the chamber. "People of the Deathworld Alliance, I speak to you from Earth. We have observed your struggle against the Ascendancy, and we recognize the imminent threat they pose. Not just to you, but to all sentient life. Earth is willing to offer military and technological cooperation if the Alliance can help us resolve our energy crisis. This is not charity, it is survival, for all of us." The recording ended, leaving the chamber in silence. "Earth," Terran finally said. "They've barely achieved interstellar communication. Their political structures are primitive, divided. What could they possibly offer against the Ascendancy?" Dr. Maya Tita stepped forward. "Fresh perspectives, untested strategies. Sometimes the greatest innovations come from those who don't know what's supposedly impossible." "Or perhaps," Hessa added quietly, "those who still have something to lose." Terran studied the frozen image of Ambassador Donovan. Earth was a gamble, a desperate one. But the Deathworld Alliance had run out of safer options. "The Council has already decided," the Elder said, reading Terran's expression. "You 3 will travel to Earth via the Orion Threshold. Lieutenant Vorex will lead the diplomatic mission, with Hessa as strategic advisor, and Dr. Tita to evaluate technological exchange possibilities." "And if Earth proves inadequate?" Terran asked. The Elder's eyes met his. "Then 100 billion lives rest on your ability to find another solution, Lieutenant, because we have none left." As the meeting concluded, Terran found himself alone with Hessa and Dr. Tita in the corridor outside. "Is it worth risking the lives of 100 billion Taurians on the word of a completely alien species?" he asked. more to himself than to them. Hessa's crystalline eyes studied him. If we don't take this risk, those 100 billion will die anyway. The Ascendancy has made that clear. And if Earth betrays us, uses our technology against us, delivers us to the Ascendancy? Dr. Maya adjusted her laboratory coat, her movements precise and efficient. Then we'll die knowing we tried everything. But if we don't try at all, we're already dead. Terran nodded slowly. She was right, of course. They all were. The Alliance was on its last legs, its resources nearly depleted, its military fractured. They needed a miracle. And Earth, for better or worse, was the only miracle on offer. The preparations for departure were swift. The Orion Threshold, a network of instantaneous transport stations positioned throughout Alliance space, would take them directly to the outermost reaches of Earth's solar system. From there, they would proceed with extreme caution. We don't know how Earth will truly receive us, Terran warned, as they boarded the transport vessel. Ambassador Donovan may have good intentions, but he's one human among billions. Hessa nodded, her translucent fingers moving over the ship's controls. The political briefing indicates Earth is divided into two major geopolitical blocks. Block A suffers from severe energy shortages and seems more receptive to alliance. Block B controls more resources but fears external intervention. Classic internal division, Terran muttered. No wonder they've never achieved unified space exploration. The journey through the Orion Threshold was instantaneous. A flash of disorientation. Then darkness, speckled with unfamiliar stars. Earth's solar system spread before them, dominated by the yellow primary and its array of planets. Third planet, Dr. Maya noted. Blue-green, abundant water. Their habitat is nothing like our Deathworlds. As they approached Earth's orbit, communications began to flood in, some welcoming, others hostile. Earth, it seemed, was as divided as their intelligence had suggested. Ambassador Donovan's shuttle is approaching, Hessa announced. He's alone. The docking procedure was tense. When the airlock finally opened, Terran found himself face to face with the human from the recording. In person, Calix Donovan was shorter than Terran had expected, but carried himself with unmistakable dignity. Lieutenant Vorax, Donovan said, extending his hand in what Terran recognized as a human greeting ritual. Welcome to Earth. I apologize for the mixed reception. Not everyone shares my vision of cooperation. Terran took the offered hand carefully. Ambassador Donovan, your message reached us at a critical moment. The Alliance is grateful for Earth's interest, but I must be direct. We need more than interest. We need concrete assistance. Donovan nodded grimly. And you'll have it. But first, we need to navigate Earth politics. Block A supports Alliance. They need your energy solutions desperately. Block B fears you're using peace as a pretext to establish a strategic foothold. Ironic, Dr. Maya said, her avian eyes blinking rapidly. We face extinction, yet they believe we have conquest in mind. Fear rarely follows logic. Dr. Tita, Donovan replied. Follow me. We've arranged secure facilities where we can begin our work while I manage the diplomatic side. The Earth facility was primitive by Alliance standards, but functional. Located in what humans called North America, it housed laboratories, training areas, and communication centers. As days passed, Terran observed the humans with growing interest. They were physically weaker than Taurians, less adaptable than Sistarans, and lacked the intuitive scientific understanding of Avans. Yet, they possessed remarkable creativity and persistence. Dr. Maya quickly established a research partnership with Earth's military medical division, headed by Major Sarah Nguyen. Together, they began adapting the enhancement MEMK-I4 gene therapy, originally designed to augment Taurian soldiers, for potential human application. The cellular response is promising, Dr. Maya explained during one briefing, her feathered crest rising with excitement. Human physiology is surprisingly compatible with the base enhancement protocol, though we're seeing some concerning side effects in the initial tests. What kind of side effects? Terran asked. Major Nguyen answered, her expression grave. Neurological instability, aggression spikes. 3 volunteers had to be sedated. We're adjusting the formula, Dr. Maya assured them. But even a partial implementation would give human soldiers significant advantages against ascendancy forces. Meanwhile, Hessa had been working with Earth's tactical teams to develop what she called jazz tactics, improvised, unpredictable battle patterns that combine Taurian precision with human adaptability. Ascendancy battle algorithms are predictive, she explained, her translucent skin glowing faintly under the artificial lights. They analyze patterns and respond accordingly, but humans rarely follow expected patterns. They improvise, like this music they call jazz. If we can train combined Taurian Earth units to operate the same way, the Ascendancy won't be able to predict our movements, Terran finished, beginning to see the potential. The first training session was nearly a disaster. Taurian soldiers, accustomed to rigid battle formations, struggled to adapt to the humans' freeform approach. Hours into the exercise, the simulation systems suddenly glitched, displaying Ascendancy code. "They've hacked our training algorithm," Dr. Maya shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. Terran made a split-second decision. Continue the exercise, manually, no computers. What followed was chaos, but productive chaos. Without the training algorithms to guide them, the combined Taurian Earth units were forced to truly improvise, developing signals and maneuvers on the fly. By the session's end, they had created something entirely new, a fighting style that was neither Taurian nor human, but something unpredictable and effective. "They can hack our systems," Terran said afterward, "but they can't hack our minds." As weeks passed, bonds began to form. Terran found himself spending more time with Ambassador Donovan, discussing philosophy and strategy long into Earth's nights. Despite their different origins, they shared core values, the belief that technology should serve cooperation, not conquest. "Your ascendancy reminds me of Earth's darkest chapters," Donovan said one evening. "We've had our own tyrants who believed strength justified oppression." "And how did you defeat them?" Terran asked. Donovan smiled slightly. "The same way we'll defeat the Ascendancy, by standing together." The strategic planning intensified. The Alliance would provide space drive technology and advanced plasma weapons. Earth would contribute light escort fleets and high-energy ballistic weapons. Together, they began to form what Terran called the Tri-Alliance Squad, a combined force of Taurians, Sistarans, and humans under joint command. "The commander must understand all 3 cultures," Dr. Maya advised, to prevent internal conflicts from undermining the mission. The decision was unanimous. Terran would lead the Taurian and Sistaran forces, while Donovan would command the Earth contingent. Together, they would attempt something unprecedented, Operation Stellar Storm. The target was Mirage 9, an Ascendancy sensor station positioned at the edge of their territory. If they could destroy it, they would blind a significant portion of the Ascendancy's tactical data collection network, creating an opening for further operations. "A bold move," Major Lopez, the Earth Force's chief officer, commented during the final briefing. "But are we ready? Our troops have barely trained together." "Ready or not, we must act," Hessa replied. "The Ascendancy continues to advance. 3 more Alliance worlds are under immediate threat." Preparations for Operation Stellar Storm proceeded at breakneck speed. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock to outfit vessels with Alliance technology, while Taurian engineers adapted human ballistic weapons for space combat. The resulting hybrid vessels were ungainly but potent, neither fully Alliance nor fully Earth, but something new. The night before departure, Terran stood alone in the observation bay, watching Earth's moon rise over the horizon. He'd never seen a natural satellite so large, so close to its parent planet. It seemed impossible that such a system could remain stable, yet it had done so for billions of years. Perhaps, he thought, unlikely alliances could prove equally enduring. Unable to sleep, Lieutenant? Taran turned to find Major Nguyen behind him, her medical uniform exchanged for casual Earth attire. Just contemplating the uncertainties ahead, he admitted. She moved to stand beside him, her gaze following his to the moon. You know, when our water crisis hit its peak 10 years ago, nations that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found common cause. Survival has a way of clarifying priorities. And afterward, when the crisis passed, Nguyen's expression grew somber. Some returned to old rivalries. Others found they preferred cooperation. The question is always which path offers more benefits. And which does? Taran asked. That, she said with a slight smile, is what we're about to find out. The departure was solemn. 300 vessels, a mix of Alliance and Earth designs, formed up in Earth orbit before activating their drives. The journey to the edge of Ascendancy space would take 17 days, time that would be spent in final preparations and training. Taran used the time to study Ascendancy battle records, searching for patterns or weaknesses. Commander Valen, the Ascendancy officer responsible for the defense of the Mirage 9 sector, was known for his cunning and ruthlessness. The reports described him as a master of space traps and ambushes. We'll need to be equally unpredictable, Taran told his officers. The Jazz approach is our best advantage. The first skirmish occurred 3 days from Mirage 9. Ascendancy scout ships detected their approach and engaged, testing their defenses. The Tri-Alliance squad responded with synchronized unpredictability, Taurian vessels executing precision maneuvers, while Earth ships performed seemingly random course changes, all coordinated through Hessa's tactical network. They're retreating, Major Lopez announced, surprise evident in his voice. We actually pushed them back. They're analyzing our tactics, Taran cautioned. The next encounter will be harder. He was right. The second skirmish, just 1 day later, saw the Ascendancy deploy specialized countermeasures, energy fields that disrupted Alliance weapons, targeting systems that predicted human evasive patterns. The squad took losses. 3 Taurian cruisers and 7 Earth vessels destroyed before they could force another retreat. They're adapting, Hessa warned during the emergency council. Faster than we anticipated. Dr. Maya's feathered crest flattened with concern. If they can predict our Jazz tactics after just 1 exposure, then we need to change the music, Taran finished. Major Lopez, how quickly can your pilots learn new maneuvers? The Earth officer frowned. Hours, not days. But will that be enough? It has to be, Taran said firmly, because we've reached Mirage 9. The Ascendancy sensor station loomed before them, a massive structure of dark metal and pulsing energy fields, surrounded by defense platforms and patrol vessels. At its heart lay the Quantum Observation Array that monitored Alliance movements across multiple sectors. Battle positions, Taran ordered. Orion Satellite Station, stand by to provide fire support. The Tri-Alliance formation spread out, following the newly devised battle plan. Taurian heavy cruisers would engage the main defense platforms, while Earth vessels targeted the patrol ships. Sistaran stealth units, led by Hessa, would attempt to breach the station's outer defenses and plant demolition charges at key structural points. Commence attack, Taran commanded, and the void erupted with plasma fire and ballistic trajectories. Initially, the battle proceeded according to plan. The Ascendancy defenders, prepared for Jazz tactics, were instead confronted with a classical Taurian assault pattern, only to discover too late that it was merely a facade. Within the rigid formation, individual vessels executed micro-variations, creating gaps and opportunities that traditional battle algorithms couldn't predict. They're responding, Hessa reported from her stealth vessel. Defense platforms redirecting fire. We have an opening. The Sistaran team slipped through, approaching the station's vulnerable southern axis. Meanwhile, the Earth vessels performed a maneuver they called a Crazy Ivan, a sudden, complete reversal that brought them within point-blank range of the surprised patrol ships. Effective, Terran noted, as explosions blossomed in the void. But their commander is holding back the main fleet. Why? The answer came moments later. Space itself seemed to warp around the Tri-Alliance formation as hidden ascendancy vessels activated specialized gravity weapons. The battlefield contracted, limiting maneuverability and bringing the squad's vessels dangerously close together. "Space trap!" Major Lopez shouted. "They're compressing our formation to create a single target." Terran's vessel shuddered as the gravitational forces intensified. "All units, emergency dispersal pattern. Breach the compression field at any cost." The battle deteriorated into desperate struggles as individual ships fought to escape the tightening trap. An Avon support vessel near Terran's command ship took a direct hit, its hull rupturing in a catastrophic breach. Without thinking, Terran ordered his vessel alongside, opening emergency docking procedures to rescue the crew. "Lieutenant, we're too exposed," his first officer protested. "Irrelevant," Terran snapped. "We don't leave our people." The rescue succeeded, but at terrible cost. As the last Avon crew member crossed into Terran's ship, a massive energy blast struck their position. Explosive decompression ripped through 3 decks, and Terran found himself thrown violently into a maintenance airlock. The automatic emergency protocols activated, sealing him inside as his ship's atmosphere vented into space. Through the small viewport, he watched in horror as sections of his command vessel tore away, leaving him isolated in what amounted to little more than a reinforced metal box drifting through the battlefield. His survival suit activated, its systems struggling to compensate for the damage it had sustained. Terran fought to remain conscious, manually adjusting life support settings, while using the suit's minimal thrusters to stabilize his tumble. "This is Lieutenant Vorex," he transmitted, though he had no way of knowing if anyone could hear him. "Separated from command vessel, requiring retrieval." Only static answered him. Across the battlefield, the situation was deteriorating. With Terran presumed lost, command had fallen to Major Lopez, who was arguing for immediate retreat. "We've lost a third of our forces," the Earth officer insisted. "We're not equipped for this level of resistance." Hessa, having returned from her partially successful mission to plant charges, stood her ground. "If we retreat now, all those deaths meant nothing. Taurian and Earth blood has been spilled together on this battlefield. We cannot turn away." The debate might have continued, but at that moment, several of the charges Hessa's team had planted finally detonated. Mirage 9's southern quadrant erupted in a series of explosions, creating a cascading system failure that spread throughout the station. "Status report," Major Lopez demanded. 60% of Mirage 9's observation capabilities destroyed, Hessa reported, her translucent features tight with exhaustion. "But we've lost half our T-Delta and DJ-2 fighters, and Dr. Tita's life support system was critically damaged during the final charge placement." "She's stable," Major Nguyen added, "but needs immediate medical attention." "And Lieutenant Vorex?" Lopez asked. A heavy silence fell over the command center. "Presumed lost in action," Hessa finally said, her voice barely audible. "His command vessel suffered catastrophic damage." "Then I'm ordering a withdrawal," Lopez decided. "We've accomplished enough to—" "Belay that," a ragged voice interrupted over the comm system. "This is Lieutenant Vorex. I'm still operational." Disbelief and relief washed over the command center, as Terran's location was triangulated, a small survival pod drifting amid the debris field that had once been part of Mirage 9. "Retrieve the lieutenant immediately," Lopez ordered, his earlier defiance forgotten in the face of this unexpected survival. Once back aboard the reserve command vessel, Terran wasted no time despite his injuries. "Status of Mirage 9, he demanded, as medical personnel attempted to treat him. "Significantly damaged but not destroyed," Hessa reported. Its quantum observation array is offline, but the station itself remains partially functional. Terran studied the tactical display, noting the pattern of debris spreading from the damaged station. "Those fragments," he said, pointing to a particular cluster. "They're parts of the quantum array." "Useless now," Dr. Maya noted. She had insisted on joining the briefing, despite her own injuries. "The calibration is lost." "No," Terran said, his silver eyes gleaming with sudden inspiration. "Not useless. If we can salvage those fragments, we might be able to use them to create a temporary space gate, one that would allow us to bypass the Ascendancy's outer defenses and strike directly at their heart." "That's suicide," Major Lopez protested. "We've already lost too many ships. You're talking about penetrating deep into Ascendancy territory with what? Half our original force?" "Less," Terran acknowledged. "But it may be our only opportunity. The Ascendancy will replace Mirage 9 within days. This window won't remain open." "And what target would justify such a risk?" Hessa asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "Omega Nexus," Terran said quietly. "The central coordination hub for the Ascendancy's entire observation and gate network." Silence fell over the command center as the implications sank in. Omega Nexus was the heart of the Ascendancy's military infrastructure, a facility so heavily defended that the Alliance had never even considered it a viable target. "If we could disable Omega Nexus," Dr. Maya began. "We could blind and immobilize the entire Ascendancy fleet," Terran finished, "creating an opportunity for the remaining Alliance worlds to regroup and counterattack." The internal conflict that followed was intense. Major Lopez and several Earth officers argued vehemently against what they saw as a suicide mission. Hessa and Dr. Maya supported Terran's plan, recognizing that despite its risks, it offered the first real hope the Alliance had seen in years. In the privacy of his quarters, Terran wrestled with his own doubts. The plan would require sacrificing more Taurian lives, perhaps tens of millions if it failed catastrophically. Was he trading one form of extinction for another? "Your thoughts are heavy tonight," Ambassador Donovan said, entering after a brief knock. Terran didn't look up. "If we proceed with this attack and fail, I will have led my people to their doom. And if you don't try at all?" "The same outcome, but prolonged, a slow death instead of a swift one." Donovan sat across from him, his expression thoughtful. "When I first contacted the Alliance, many on Earth thought I was making a terrible mistake. They'll use us and discard us," they said. "Their technology will overwhelm us." "And now?" Terran asked. "Now they see Taurians and humans fighting side by side, dying side by side." Donovan's eyes met his. "Sometimes faith requires blood to prove its worth. Yours has been spilled for us. Ours for you." Terran considered this. "Then you support the Omega Nexus operation?" "I do," Donovan said firmly. "Because I believe in what we're building together. Not just a military alliance, but a future." The decision was made, using salvaged fragments from Mirage 9's quantum array. Dr. Maya and a team of engineers constructed what they termed a transient dimensional gateway, unstable and temporary, but capable of transporting the remaining Tri-Alliance forces directly to Omega Nexus. The gateway will remain stable for approximately 12 hours, Dr. Maya explained during the final briefing. After that, the quantum matrices will degrade beyond usability, meaning we have 12 hours to complete the mission and return, Terran summarized, or we'll be stranded in the heart of Ascendancy territory. The assault force had been reduced to just 30% of their original strength, barely enough to mount a credible attack against such a fortified target. But what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in determination and unpredictability. "Jazz," Hessa reminded them. "When all else fails, improvise." The gateway activation was a moment of breathtaking tension. The salvaged fragments, arranged in a precise geometric pattern, began to glow with an eerie blue light as Dr. Maya initiated the power sequence. Space itself seemed to fold inward, creating a swirling vortex of energy that stabilized into a shimmering portal. "Gateway stable," she announced. "Dimensional coordinates locked on Omega Nexus." "All vessels, advance," Terran ordered. "Maximum alert status." The transition through the gateway was disorienting, a momentary sensation of being everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Then, reality reasserted itself, and the Tri-Alliance fleet found themselves in orbit around a massive space station, unlike anything they had encountered before. Omega Nexus hung against the backdrop of a dim red star, a colossal structure of interlocking rings and spheres, pulsating with energy that seemed to distort the very fabric of space-time around it. Surrounding it was the largest concentration of Ascendancy warships they had yet encountered. "By the eternal stars," Hessa whispered, "there must be thousands of them." "And they've detected us," Major Lopez added grimly, as alarm signals began blaring throughout the fleet. Terran assessed the situation with rapid clarity. "They're surprised, but organizing quickly. We have minutes at most before they surround us completely." "Battle formation Sigma 9, he ordered. "Earth vessels. Concentrate fire on their communication arrays. Taurian cruisers. Target their power distribution hubs. Sistaran stealth units. Prepare for infiltration of the main facility." The battle erupted with terrifying intensity. Ascendancy vessels swarmed toward them from all directions, their weapons leaving trails of devastation through the vacuum. The Tri-Alliance forces fought with desperate courage, each ship executing the jazz-inspired maneuvers that had proven so effective at Mirage 9. But this time, the Ascendancy was prepared. As the first wave of Tri-Alliance fighters approached the Nexus, they encountered what Hessa later called a static array, a defensive system specifically designed to neutralize unpredictable movement patterns by creating zones of altered physics where standard navigation became impossible. "They've countered our jazz tactics," she reported, her voice tight with concern. "We can't penetrate their inner defense perimeter." Terran made a swift decision. "Switch to direct assault protocols. Concentrate all fire on Sector 7G. We'll breach through overwhelming force." The change in tactics caught the Ascendancy defenders momentarily off guard, creating a narrow corridor through which a small strike team might pass. "I'll lead the ground assault," Terran declared, already moving toward the hangar bay where assault shuttles waited. "Hessa, coordinate from here. Dr. Maya, I need you with me. Your knowledge of Ascendancy systems will be crucial." "I'm coming too," Major Nguyen insisted, checking the charge on her particle rifle. "You'll need medical support if things go wrong." The assault shuttle launched into chaos, plasma fire and ballistic projectiles crisscrossing the void as larger vessels engaged in deadly combat. Terran piloted manually, weaving through the firefight with a precision that left even his experienced crew breathless. "There's our entry point," he announced, as they approached a maintenance airlock on the Nexus's outer ring. "Prepare for hard dock." The impact as they connected with the Nexus shook the shuttle violently. Emergency seals deployed, creating a tenuous atmospheric bridge between the two vessels. "Breach team, go," Terran ordered, and heavily armored soldiers, a mix of Taurians and humans, charged through the airlock into the Ascendancy facility. They met immediate resistance. Ascendancy security forces had been alerted to the breach and deployed in force, their advanced weaponry creating killing zones in the narrow corridors of the Nexus. "Push forward!" Terran shouted above the cacophony of battle. "We need to reach the central control hub." Fighting was brutal and close quarters. The Tri-Alliance soldiers advanced meter by bloody meter, using specialized breaching charges to clear defensive positions and force their way deeper into the facility. "Lieutenant, incoming transmission," one of his communication officers reported suddenly. It's addressed specifically to you." Terran paused, then nodded. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the face of an Ascendancy officer. Stern features, eyes that held the cold calculation of a predator, and yet somehow familiar. "Lieutenant Vorex," the officer said, his voice carrying notes of both surprise and something like satisfaction. "I wondered if it might be you leading this desperate venture." Terran's blood ran cold. "Commander Valen, you remember, I'm flattered." "Hard to forget the architect of 15 Deathworld genocides," Terran replied coldly. Valen's expression didn't change. "Not genocide, Lieutenant. Evolution. The strong survive, the weak perish. That is the way of all universes." "We've come to change that equation," Terran said. "So I see. With human allies, no less. How desperate the mighty Taurians must have become." Valen's eyes narrowed slightly. "I've prepared a special welcome for you, old friend. I think you'll find it educational." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Terran unsettled. Old friend. The words stirred memories he had long suppressed, of a time before the Ascendancy War, when Taurians and Ascendancy had been uneasy allies against a now-forgotten threat. "Lieutenant," Dr. Maya prompted, concern evident in her avian features. Terran shook off the momentary distraction. "Continue the advance, but be alert. Valen doesn't make idle threats." They pushed deeper into the Nexus, fighting through increasingly sophisticated defenses. The layout of the facility was labyrinthine, designed to confuse and trap intruders. But Dr. Maya's knowledge of Ascendancy architecture proved invaluable. "The central hub should be 2 levels down," she said, consulting a holographic map she had constructed from memory. "But I'm detecting unusual energy readings between us and the target." "Trap?" Major Nguyen asked, checking her medical supplies as they paused at a junction. "Almost certainly," Terran confirmed. "Valen excels at them." As if summoned by his words, the corridor ahead of them suddenly shimmered with activity. The air itself seemed to solidify into translucent barriers, dividing their force into isolated segments. "Containment fields!" Dr. Maya exclaimed. "They're separating us." Terran found himself cut off from most of his team, trapped in a section of corridor with only Dr. Maya and 2 human soldiers. Ahead of them, the passage opened into a vast chamber dominated by a pulsating orb of energy, the heart of Omega Nexus. And standing before it, waiting with calculated patience, was Commander Valen. "Lieutenant Vorex," he said, his voice no longer transmitted but immediately present. "Right on schedule." Terran raised his plasma rifle, but Valen made a dismissive gesture. "Please, if I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have made it this far. I wanted to see you, to understand what drives a Taurian of your caliber to such desperation." "The survival of my people drives me," Terran replied, not lowering his weapon. "Something you should understand. Valen, we fought together once. And now we stand on opposite sides of history." Valen circled slowly, studying Terran and his companions with clinical interest. "You bring an Avan scientist and human soldiers to the heart of Ascendancy power. Fascinating choices." "We bring the future," Dr. Maya said boldly. "One where cooperation replaces conquest." Valen's laugh was cold. "Spoken like a true Avan idealist. But reality favors strength. Doctor. Always has. Always will." While they spoke, Terran noticed Dr. Maya subtly activating a device concealed in her lab coat, a data extraction tool, designed to interface with Ascendancy systems. She was attempting to hack into the Nexus controls even during this confrontation. "The Deathworld Alliance is finished," Valen continued. "Earth will follow. It's simply a matter of time." "Is that why you're here talking instead of fighting?" Terran challenged. "Because victory is so certain." Something flashed in Valen's eyes. Uncertainty. Perhaps. Or doubt. "I wanted to understand. Before the end." "Understand what?" "Why you persist, when logic dictates surrender." Terran took a careful step forward. Because some things are worth fighting for, even when victory seems impossible. The right to exist. The right to determine our own fate. Sentiment, Valen dismissed. Inefficient and ultimately futile. Is it? Terran gestured toward the two human soldiers beside him. Humans were confined to a single planet until a decade ago. Now they fight alongside us at the heart of your empire. Cooperation has achieved what neither of us could alone. Valen's gaze shifted to the humans, his expression unreadable. They are unexpected variables. Behind them, Dr. Maya's device emitted a soft tone. She had succeeded in accessing the Nexus systems. Commander, a disembodied voice suddenly announced, the Ascendancy's AI sentience. Infiltration detected in Central Hub. Unknown algorithm attempting to access gate control systems. Valen's face hardened. Terminate the intruders. All of them. Belay that! Dr. Maya shouted, her fingers flying over her device. Authorization Valen Prime override. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the AI responded, its tone subtly different. Override code recognized but insufficient. Require commanding officer confirmation. All eyes turned to Valen, who stood frozen in apparent shock. How did you? Your authorization codes were in the Mirage 9 database. Dr. Maya explained quickly. I extracted them during our attack, but they need your voice confirmation to execute. You expect me to help you? Valen asked incredulously. I expect you to save what remains of your people, Terran said quietly. Because the Ascendancy is dying too, isn't it? Your universe is collapsing. That's why you've been so desperate to conquer ours. Valen's composure cracked slightly. How could you possibly know that? Because it's the only explanation that makes sense. The Ascendancy has always been calculating, efficient. But this war? It's been wasteful, reckless. The actions of a civilization with nothing to lose. For a long moment, Valen said nothing. The chamber hummed with energy as the Nexus continued its operations around them, seemingly oblivious to the drama unfolding at its heart. Commander, the AI prompted, awaiting your order. Terminate intruders. Valen looked at Terran, then at Dr. Maya, then at the human soldiers who stood ready to fight despite being hopelessly outmatched. Finally, his gaze settled on the pulsating energy orb that controlled the Ascendancy's gate network. No, he said finally. Implement Override Valen Prime. Transfer control of all systems to my personal authority. Compliance, the AI responded. Warning, this action contradicts primary Ascendancy directives. Override directives, Valen continued, his voice gaining strength. Immediate cessation of all military operations against the Deathworld Alliance and Earth territories. The AI's voice took on a note of what almost sounded like alarm. This action constitutes treason against the Ascendancy. Protocol requires immediate termination of commanding officer. Then terminate me, Valen said simply. But the order stands. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. Then alarm klaxons began to sound throughout the facility as the AI's presence seemed to withdraw, leaving a sudden vacuum of authority. What did you do? Terran asked, lowering his weapon slightly. I broke the chain, Valen replied. The AI sentience requires absolute adherence to hierarchy. By issuing a direct contradiction to core programming while maintaining command authority, I've created a logical paradox it cannot resolve. You've crashed the system, Dr. Maya realized, checking her device. The entire Nexus network is destabilizing. More than that, Valen said grimly. I've initiated a cascade failure that will spread throughout the Ascendancy command structure. Every AI-dependent system will either shut down or revert to basic autonomous functions. The implications were staggering. The Ascendancy fleet, suddenly deprived of central coordination, would be thrown into chaos. The invasion of Alliance space would stall, at least temporarily. Why? Terran asked, genuinely puzzled. Why help us now? Valen's expression was complex, part resignation, part relief. Because you were right. Our universe is dying. Entropy acceleration has reached critical levels. We calculated that complete colonization of your universe was our only chance for survival. And now? Now. Valen seemed to age before their eyes. Now I'm choosing a different path. If we cannot save our universe through conquest, perhaps we can save at least some of our people through cooperation. The facility shuddered as systems continued to fail around them. Emergency lighting activated, bathing everything in a red glow. This station will begin to break apart soon, Valen warned. If you still wish to save your people, Lieutenant Vorax, I suggest we depart immediately. Terran studied him carefully. You're coming with us? I'm surrendering to you, Valen corrected, along with whatever knowledge might help prevent further bloodshed. A difficult decision, but one that Terran made quickly. Dr. Maya, can you restore the gateway that brought us here? She consulted her device. Yes, but the stability matrix is degrading rapidly. We have perhaps 30 minutes before it collapses completely. Then we move now, Terran decided. Contact all Tri-Alliance forces. Begin immediate withdrawal through the gateway. As they fought their way back through the disintegrating facility, they encountered pockets of ascendancy resistance. Soldiers and officers confused by the sudden silence from Central Command, but still determined to protect their station. Hold your fire, Valen ordered, when they encountered one such group. These forces are under my protection. Allow them passage. Some obeyed instantly, ingrained respect for hierarchy overriding their suspicion. Others hesitated, uncertain in this unprecedented situation. A few refused outright, forcing brief but intense firefights as the evacuation continued. They reached the breach point to find Hessa waiting with a relief force. Her crystalline eyes widened at the sight of Valen accompanying them. Lieutenant, she questioned, weapon half raised. He's surrendered, Terran explained quickly, and provided invaluable assistance. We'll sort out the details once we're safely through the gateway. The journey back through the chaotic space battle was harrowing. Ascendancy vessels, now operating without central coordination, fought with decreasing effectiveness, but increasing desperation. The Tri-Alliance fleet, though battered, maintained enough cohesion to protect the withdrawing ground forces. As they approached the gateway, Terran could see it beginning to destabilize, its edges flickering and distorting as the salvaged quantum components reached their limits. All vessels maximum speed, he ordered. The gateway is collapsing. One by one, the surviving ships passed through the shimmering portal, returning to the relative safety of neutral space. Terran's command shuttle was among the last, escorting the vessel carrying Valen and a small group of Ascendancy officers who had chosen to follow their commander. As they emerged on the other side, the gateway pulsed once more before collapsing in on itself, leaving only scattered energy readings where it had been. We made it, Dr. Maya said, exhaustion evident in her voice. All of us. Taran nodded, feeling the weight of their accomplishment and the challenges that still lay ahead. Now comes the harder part, building something from what we've saved. The aftermath of Operation Omega Storm, as it came to be known, was a period of profound transition. With the Ascendancy command structure in disarray, their invasion force had withdrawn to defensive positions, creating a temporary ceasefire along all fronts. Valen, now officially a prisoner of war but treated more as a diplomatic envoy, became the centerpiece of intensive negotiations. In a secure facility on Earth's moon, representatives from the Deathworld Alliance, Earth, and Valen's faction of the Ascendancy began the delicate process of crafting a sustainable peace. The hardliners in the Ascendancy will resist, Valen warned during one particularly tense session. The Zerad faction especially believes that any peace is merely surrender by another name. Then we must demonstrate that cooperation offers more benefits than continued conflict. Hessa replied. She had taken on the role of diplomatic mediator, her Sistaran heritage making her uniquely suited to bridge cultural divides. Dr. Maya, working with both Earth scientists and the Ascendancy engineers who had accompanied Valen, began development of what they called the Rescue Nexus, a network of stable gateways that could deliver medical supplies, food, and scientific equipment to planets affected by the war. "The technology exists," she explained, during a presentation to the Joint Council. "What we lacked was the understanding of how to stabilize dimensional interfaces without causing catastrophic energy feedback." "And now," Ambassador Donovan asked, "now, with combined knowledge from 3 civilizations, we can create gateways that actually strengthen the fabric of space-time, rather than degrading it." The first test of the Rescue Nexus was fraught with tension. Previous attempts at gateway construction had resulted in catastrophic failures, with several engineers losing their lives in laboratory accidents. Many within the Alliance questioned whether the risk was worth the potential reward. "If we cannot establish a stable network," Terran argued before the skeptical council, "then millions more will die as planets cut off from supply lines continue to deteriorate." The test proceeded despite the concerns. On the desolate surface of Mars, Earth's neighboring planet, scientists from all 3 civilizations activated the prototype gateway. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then space folded inward, forming a perfectly stable portal through which supply vessels immediately began to travel. "It works," Dr. Maya announced, her feathered crest rising with excitement. "The Rescue Nexus is operational." While the technical team celebrated this breakthrough, political tensions continued to simmer. On Earth, debates raged between Bloc A and Bloc B about the extent of human involvement in what many still saw as an alien conflict. "We've already sacrificed thousands of our soldiers," a Bloc B representative argued during a global council session. "How much more are we expected to give?" "As much as necessary to secure our future," Ambassador Donovan countered. "The ascendancy threat hasn't disappeared. It's merely paused. If we withdraw now, we'll face them alone when they inevitably return." Taran found himself increasingly drawn into these political discussions, often serving as the voice of Alliance interests. During one particularly heated exchange, he finally lost patience with the endless debate. "While we argue, people are dying," he said bluntly. "On Alliance worlds, on Earth, even in Ascendancy territories. Are your political divisions worth those lives?" The question hung in the air, uncomfortable but necessary. Slowly, consensus began to build around the need for continued cooperation, though the form it would take remained contentious. Meanwhile, Valen faced his own struggles. Though officially protected by Terran's personal guarantee, he received death threats from both Alliance citizens who had lost loved ones to Ascendancy attacks and from hardline Ascendancy loyalists who viewed him as a traitor. "I expected no less," he told Terran during one of their increasingly frequent conversations. "Change never comes without resistance." "Was it worth it?" Terran asked. "Betraying everything you once believed in?" Valen considered the question carefully. "I believed in survival. That hasn't changed. What's changed is my understanding of how best to achieve it." As months passed, the temporary ceasefire began to solidify into something more permanent. The joint development of the Rescue Nexus had created technological interdependencies that none of the participating civilizations could easily abandon. More importantly, it had fostered personal connections across previously impenetrable boundaries. Dr. Maya worked closely with Ascendancy scientists to understand the entropy acceleration affecting their home universe, seeking solutions that might at least slow the process. Major Nguyen established exchange programs between Earth's Medical Corps and Alliance healing centers, sharing techniques and treatments that benefited all species involved. Hessa returned to Stavora to rebuild the military academy, not as a war college, but as an institution focused on diplomatic and peacekeeping strategies. The next generation must understand both the art of war and the greater art of preventing it, she explained when questioned about this radical shift. Terran found himself increasingly torn between duties on multiple fronts. The Alliance needed his leadership as they rebuilt their shattered worlds. Earth valued his perspective as they integrated into a larger interstellar community. And the fragile peace required his personal attention, particularly in managing the complex relationship with Valen and the cooperative Ascendancy faction. "You can't be everywhere at once," Ambassador Donovan told him during a rare moment of respite. "You need to decide where you can do the most good." After much consideration, Terran made his choice. In a historic ceremony held at the Avara Peace Center, a once-abandoned Alliance space station now repurposed as a neutral diplomatic facility, representatives from the Deathworld Alliance, Earth, and Valen's Ascendancy faction signed what became known as the Tri-Universe Treaty. The terms were ambitious: a complete cessation of hostilities, shared development of dimensional stabilization technology, equitable distribution of resources, a joint commission to oversee the gradual rehabilitation of war-torn planets. Most controversially, the treaty included provisions for the relocation of willing Ascendancy citizens to stable regions of Alliance and Earth space, an acknowledgement that their home universe could not be saved entirely, but its people might be. "This is not surrender," Valen told his followers as he signed the document. "This is evolution, adaptation, the very principle the Ascendancy has always claimed to embody." Not everyone accepted this new reality. Within the Ascendancy, the Zerad faction denounced Valen as a traitor and vowed to continue the war by any means necessary. On some Alliance worlds, populations that had suffered under Ascendancy attacks protested the idea of offering sanctuary to their former enemies. "Peace is never a simple path," Terran acknowledged in his address following the treaty signing. "It requires us to overcome not just external obstacles, but our own fears and grievances. The easy choice would be to continue fighting until one side is utterly destroyed. The courageous choice is to build something new together." In the years that followed, Terran transitioned from military leader to what humans called a peace professor. He established a course called Tactics and Responsibility that was taught simultaneously on Stavora and Earth, using gateway technology to connect classrooms across the vastness of space. Ambassador Donovan, now Earth's Minister of Multi-Universal Cooperation, worked tirelessly to implement the treaty provisions, navigating the complex political landscape with increasing skill. Valen, once the most feared Ascendancy commander, became the leader of the Universe Restoration Committee, writing memoirs titled From Genocide to Universal Rebirth that became required reading in diplomatic academies throughout Alliance space. The final image of this remarkable transformation came 15 years after the Battle of Omega Nexus. On a newly terraformed section of Stavora, representatives from all three civilizations, Taurian, Sistaran, Avan, Human, and Ascendancy, gathered for the planting of the Millennia Tree, a genetically engineered organism designed to live for thousands of years. As the sapling was placed into the once barren soil, Terran stood beside Valen, Hessa, Dr. Maya, and Ambassador Donovan, the unlikely architects of this new reality. "Will it last?" Valen asked quietly, watching as the young tree's leaves shimmered in the artificial sunlight. "Nothing lasts forever," Terran replied, "but we've given it the best possible chance." In the distance, remnants of the old Ascendancy still lurked, a reminder that threats never truly disappeared. But as Terran watched the younger generation, Taurian cadets, human students, Sistaran apprentices, Avan researchers, and even Ascendancy youth mingle around the ceremonial planting, he felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. The universe would face new challenges, different threats would emerge, but the foundations they had built, cooperation across differences, technology in service of peace, the recognition of shared responsibility for the cosmos, would endure. And that, Terran thought as he gazed up at the stars that had once seemed so hostile, was enough to build a future on.